Welcome to a new episode of Chess TV. In this episode, Professor Arne Johansson talks about the International Chess Magazine from 1886. Then we have the opening score with Alfred and Adriana and a chess puzzle with a checkmate in 3 moves. But first out, chess news with Albert. Here you go.
First out is the news that the new ELO rating list for January 2013 has been published. Just like in all of the 2012 lists, Magnus Carlsen is the top-rated player, but this time his margin to the second highest-rated player is really impressive. Coming in at 28.61, Carlsen beat Kasparov's record of 28.51, which was set 13 years ago. The second highest-rated player is Vladimir Kramnik with 28.10, 51 ELO points lower than Carlsen, which is a historical margin. 51 ELO points is just as much as the difference between the runner-up Kramnik and the 12th player on the list. The third place is held by Levon Aronian, followed by Timur Rajabov. Current world champion Viswanathan Anand is found on a 7th place. And as expected, Judith Polgar retains her place as the world's highest-ranked woman, and she's also the 50th highest-rated player in the world. This was also the 60th time Polgar tops the women's list, now followed by the women's world champion Hou Yifan. The highest-rated junior is Dutch Anish Giri. And continuing with the theme, at least in terms of the topic being Carlsen. Not only has the 22-year-old been the highest-rated player in the world 15 times now, but the star was also nominated for the Norwegian Athlete of the Year 2012 award. Well, unfortunately, Carlsen did not get a title. Instead, he settled for 3rd place. But with the progress Carlsen has made since the last rating list, one can safely say that Carlsen's best year is still to come, so there will definitely be more opportunities. A new ELO list has been published, but we can already expect big changes in it during only this month because of the prestigious super tournament Tata Steel Chess 2013, which is being held in the Netherlands this January. The tournament, which has been played continuously every year since 1938 in Wijk aan Zee, is a Category 20 tournament, which means that it's a real Grandmaster tournament in which 6 of the 9 top-ranked players are participating. This includes stars Carlsen and Anand. And the lottery system is a so-called round-robin, which means that all players will be guaranteed to play against each other. So we will most definitely see a match between world number 1 Carlsen and world champion Anand. Anand is also the last year's tournament winner, and he has actually won the tournament 5 times, making him the most frequent Wijk aan Zee winner throughout the tournament's history. But anything can happen, especially in tournaments like these. And Carlsen is probably extra motivated to win, given that he's probably determined to become Athlete of this year in Norway. And here in Sweden, the winter tournament Rilton has just finished. The tournament attracted many strong chess players, and not only from Sweden. Rilton was played in 3 different groups based on strength: Rilton Cup, Rilton ELO and Rilton Open. After 9 hard rounds, it stood clear that the Polish Grandmaster Michał Krasenkov won the highest group, Rilton Cup, with 7.5 points out of 9 possible. In 2nd place, Russian Shimano finished, followed by Dutch Lamy, both with 7 points. The best Swedish player was 22-year-old Erik Blomqvist with 6 points, followed by Pia Kramning, also she with 6 points. Rilton ELO was won by Johan Solomon, och Rilton Open was won by Karvat Avat. Congratulations! The Swedish chess news page Schacksnack, meaning Chess Talk, has just been sold, and with the takeover some changes are to follow. Among other things, the site will focus more on local news in Sweden, and more posts will be published on how to enjoy chess besides tournament play. It's been 13 years since the site started, and the takeover can probably be seen as a breath of fresh air that will hopefully last for another 13 good years. And so we end with the news that the Indian Grandmaster Tournament IACF-IIA Cup 2012 finished on December the 30th. 6 Grandmasters participated in the event, holding average ratings of 26.84. The tournament was won by Ukrainian Grandmaster Anton Korobov. Congratulations! And with those good news, it's time for Alfred and Adriana to dive into some opening theory.
Hi and welcome back. I can't believe it's already 2013. 2012 went by way too fast. So to commemorate the past year, we thought we'd take a look at one of the last games of 2012. It's from the fourth round of the Rilton Cup, which was played on December 30th here in Stockholm between Polish Grandmaster Michał Krasenkov, who, as we heard Albert say, went on to win the entire tournament, and Russian Grandmaster Sergei Ivanov. Krasenkov played white.
The game started out with knight to f3. This is a move we have come across quite often in our analysis of Grandmaster games. This move's popularity can probably be explained by, as I've said before, its versatility. Of course, there are limitations to what white can choose as a second move, but there are a lot of more options than there usually are. Sergei Ivanov responded by playing knight to f6, deciding not to reveal his hand either.
In this position, white has to make a choice. Stalling is not an option, as it's very important for white to keep his developmental advantage, and so the most common continuations are d4 or c4. Krasenkov chose the latter, which was followed by Ivanov's e6.
This was in turn followed by knight to c3 and bishop to b4. So far, so good. Neither player has chosen the most popular moves, but they haven't strayed far from the really common lines. That is, until now, where white decided to play g4. This move is not seen very often, and such aggressive opening lines are often not chosen in games between grandmasters.
Of course they do occur, but they are certainly not common. And it is almost always interesting to see how the game turns out after such a bold move has been played. This move lets black know that white is playing for the win.
Impulsively, it's easy to assume that it would be a mistake to try to capture that pawn. But you should never just instinctively trust your gut in chess. You have to calculate your options properly to make the best decisions. So take a step back and question that conclusion. It's actually possible for black to capture that pawn, but since white can play rook to g1, leading to f5, h3, knight to f6, and rook takes on g7, black often becomes deterred, even if the position isn't lost. Adriana, how did the game continue after white's g4?
Well, black, being afraid of white's imminent threat on g5, threatening the knight on f6, decided to make some space for it by playing pawn to d6. Another possible option for black would have been to play pawn to h6, protecting the knight by stopping white's threat. So how did white respond?
Well, white delivered on his threat by playing g5, forcing the knight to retreat to the 7th row, after which queen to c2 was played. Black, who has decided to go for a robust position, developed slowly by playing knight to c6, and now white's plan behind queen to c2 is revealed.
It's not really that big of a deal, but now white played a3, and after they exchanged on c3, the white queen has a great diagonal against the black king side. Not wanting to protect the pawn on g7 by castling kingside, black went for e5, simply blocking the white queen.
Here white continued with his attack by playing b4, capturing territory and allowing for a black squared bishop to capture the a1 to h8 diagonal, which was followed by queen to e7, rook to g1, knight to b6, b5, knight to d8, and a4. White's development is really something. Not only did white advance with his g-pawn on the king side, but white's also advanced quite a lot on the queen side.
Naturally, there are both positives and negatives in these kind of positions. White has a lot of space, but on the other hand, it isn't the easiest position to defend. But in turn, black will have a hard time succeeding with his attack because of the cramped position he's got. Alfred, what happened in the actual game?
Well, first of all, black blocked the white's advances by playing a5, after which white decided on attacking the center by playing d4. This was followed by e4, knight to d2, bishop to f5, and d5.
This position is really something, and the game itself, which I of course recommend that you watch, is exactly like this opening promised. Very interesting. But with that, we end this episode of the Opening School. Bye!
Well, opening theory may be important, Alfred and Adriana, but where does it take us without the knowledge to put the opponent in a checkmate? Therefore, it's time for the chess puzzle, and today I'm challenging you with a checkmate in 3 moves that white performs on black. You have 1 minute. Good luck. Well, white is 3 pawns down in this position, and black has a pressure on both the c3 pawn and threatens a queen exchange on b5, which leaves us a little apprehensive about how we preferably should continue here. A queen exchange is really out of the question because we see that the queen can make use of the e-line together with the rook. Here you must also note the rook's position and the sneaky bishop standing on e2, because when you see that one piece stands in front of a rook line like this, there should automatically ring bells in your head and a big flashing sign with the word cover check. Therefore, we should definitely try to use this opportunity and getting the black king to stand on the e-line so that the bishop move can result in a check. The king will of course not get to e7 or e8 by itself, especially considering that the queen is guarding e8 right now. So we have to force the king to e8 or e7, and we see pretty quickly that it can only be done with a queen sacrifice on e8 check. Well, what else can black do than to capture the checking queen? And look, now the king is standing right in the rook line, and then the only question we have to answer is where we are going to play the bishop. We will look at 2 options, bishop to g4 and bishop to b5. If we play it to g4, we do get a check with the rook while threatening the queen. Black, of course, has to protect the king and does that the best way by playing queen to e5. Then we capture with the rook and the pawn captures back. Well, sure, we have won the queen, but black is much better here. We are a rook and 3 pawns down since we already sacrificed our queen. Now, bishop g4 is a really bad move after our tough queen sacrifice. What we play is, of course, bishop to b5 check, a double check even. Black can't use his queen to protect this king because the king must not only be protected from the rook check, but also from the bishop check. Black can only play his king to either d8 or f8, and no matter what he chooses to play, we end this game with rook to e8 checkmate. Well, sometimes it takes a bold move, such as a queen sacrifice, to win a game. Let's just call it an investment with a substantial revenue. Now it's time for some chess history with Professor Arne Johansson. Enjoy!
In the previous program I talked about the 6th American Chess Congress 1889 and an eyewitness report from that tournament that, together with portraits of the 4 leading players, was published in the newspaper Harper's Weekly. The world champion Steinitz did not participate in the tournament, but I mentioned that he was the main organizer and the author of the extensive tournament book. Steinitz was a driving force in the American chess life at this time, and 3 years earlier he had become the first official world champion, hence in 1886, when he defeated Zukertort. The year before that he had started the ambitious chess magazine called the International Chess Magazine. But today I will take a closer look at the second volume from 1886, the year that where he could report directly from his title match. He edited the ICM, as it's called, during the 7-year period from 1885 to 1891. A somewhat odd thing about this volume from 1886 is that Steinitz already here describes in detail the planning of the Sixth American Chess Congress that was held 3 years later, and above that his plans for the tournament book that he here describes as a book that in the future probably will become a sought after and expensive item. Well, this guess about the future has become reasonably true in this respect. The fact that the International Chess Magazine was an ambitious magazine is seen from the 384 pages of this volume, filled with material from all corners of the world. There are even reports about chess in Australia from a correspondent in Sydney, who also reports about lively chess life in Melbourne and many other cities. He reported about a visit by Blackburn in Sydney, and from the chess club at the School of Arts in Sydney, it is reported that they had 74 members and had just acquired a valuable chess library to the club. A long article reports anecdotes from Café de la Régence in Paris, and for instance about Monsieur Mouret, who was a good chess player but so short that he could be hidden in the famous chess automaton called the Turk. Steinitz starts the second volume by stating that the chess life in America was flourishing, and later in the volume reports about the various matches that Captain Mackenzie played to prove that he was the strongest player in the US, behind Steinitz of course. Steinitz starts already on page 1 in the January issue with a report that described the planning of the World Championship match. This was rather complicated since the match was to be divided between New York, St. Louis and New Orleans. As usual, there were some fights about the details of the rules. Zukertort was of the opinion that it could be seen as an insult to him to include rules about punishment of inappropriate behavior, since he considered it well known that he was a gentleman by all standards. All problems were finally solved, and the match could start on January 11th in New York. Steinitz reports directly in the magazine with details about this match and analysis of the games. And in the March issue, there were comments that Steinitz's bad play in New York probably had been a big surprise for many. Zukertort was in fact in the lead by 4-1 after the session in New York. The following comment was that the quality of the match had been substantially improved when the match moved to St. Louis, where also Steinitz came back and, as we know, also finally won the match. We quote from the May issue: "The great contest recently concluded is not merely a personal triumph for the winner, who has maintained the honors of a long chess career in the severest test to which his reputation has yet been submitted, but it also promoted the general interest of our cosmopolitan game all over the world." Well, with that little report about the International Chess Magazine, we end for today, but we'll return in the next program with a new theme. So, see you then.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Chess TV. We're back again in the beginning of February, so see you then. Bye!